telling us stuff. We had people reach out to us to tell us a few things this week in a segment we like to call Listener Questions. I'm going to start off the first one. This is from David S. This was on Facebook. We got, what is your favorite boss from any video game and why? Take it away, Full Metal Mark.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to cheat here. I've got two.
That's okay.
I'm going to let
say
you
as many as you want. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'm going to say my first one, then you can say yours, then I'm going to say my last one. First one, Poseidon from God of War 3.
Remind me of that one. I played God of War 3, but it's been a while.
Poseidon is the first enemy that you fight in God of War 3. As you're scaling Mount Olympus on the backs of the Titans, you're... it's just so crazy. You're on the back of Gaia, and it's just ridiculousness. You get this cool cutscene where Poseidon jumps into the ocean, and then he comes up as this giant water god with these 4 or 5 water horse heads, and you have to defeat each one of the heads individually. And the scale of this, at that time, nothing on this scale had been done in a video game that I had played. Like, it was crazy. Now, I don't remember if Ashura's Wrath came out yet, but if it had not, nothing on the scale had been done.
I don't think Ashura's Wrath was out at the time. I don't think, no.
Okay. Yeah, so I just love how epic and grand and varied it is. There's platforming mixed in with the boss fight. It breaks up the fights between the different horse heads so it doesn't get too stale. Mm-hmm. And then when you finally get to Poseidon, he just comes up and he's just like, "You dare challenge a god of Olympus?" And he just looks epic. And it's so dope. And then you're just using your Blades of Chaos and the Blade of Olympus, and you're just going in. And there's so many different stages to this fight. And the music is just super on point. And then at the end, you finally get him out of his giant water form. And you just proceed to beat his ass. It's a QTE. Yeah, it's a QTE. And you just mercilessly just wrecking him. And then at the end of it, you stab your thumbs in his eye, break his neck, and then toss him over. And that's it.
Savage.
And that to me is just one of my favorite boss fights. God of War always has just such amazing boss fights. Anyway.
Yeah, the newest God of War with the fights you have against Baldur, love those. Mm-hmm. Love those. All right. Yeah. I don't want to go back and forth. What's your second one? Just tell me.
Okay. My second one is Xemnas from Kingdom Hearts 2. As y'all know, Kingdom Hearts 2 is my favorite game. Mm-hmm. Xemnas is so fucking cool. He's so have you played Kingdom Hearts 2? You've beaten it? Of
course I have. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just making sure because I know you're not as big a fan as me. But
yeah. No, you got to understand something. I was on board with Kingdom Hearts when they first announced the original Kingdom Hearts and it was Disney cross Final Fantasy. This is back before Final Fantasy wasn't everything and they had done a bunch of spin-offs. I was in love with the concept. I was constantly on my computer watching the little bullshit Flash website, waiting for them to upload the next world, wondering which worlds you could go to. Mm-hmm. And I devoured that game. The second one came out, loved it. I didn't start to lose steam with Kingdom Hearts until somewhere between the gap between 2 and 3, which is a period of several years, where it just started to do all the spin-offs that were story dependent, portable, on systems I didn't own. I played the Game Boy Advance game that linked 1 and 2, and I beat that, both campaigns, Sora and Riku, and I was fine. I was rolling with them still. But then after 2, they're like, this one's on DS and this one's on PSP, and I was just like, and when I tried to get into the one on DS, the 358 over whatever, that's where they kind of lost me, and I was like, okay, this is dumb.
All right, so getting back to Xemnas,
yes,
it's just a classic case of Final Fantasy boss, right? You've got 5 different forms, so before you even get to him, you're running through the world that the
world that never was, or something.
The world that never was, exactly. And you're going through, and buildings are coming at you, and you're slicing the buildings up with your Keyblade. It's just so cool. Oh my god.
Yeah, they do set piece as well, I'll admit. Yeah.
Yeah, I've replayed that. I've saved and replayed that part so many times when it was fresh. Mm-hmm. It was ridiculous. And then you proceed to fight various forms of Xemnas. At one point, there's a giant cyber metal dragon, and you're riding on like a hoverboard with Riku, and it's like a shoot 'em up section, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, when you reach Xemnas' final form, and he's just in this reverse organization outfit, it's white with black, like tribal shit going on, and then he pulls out
straight
two lightsabers. Right, he pulls out two lightsabers.
Just using lightsabers
like,
now.
Yeah, and he's just like dashing around, teleporting. We shall go together. Doing all that.
Yeah, that part where he makes like a million lightsaber beams appear around Riku, and then you have to constantly mash triangle to block all of them.
That's triangle fun. And X.
Oh yeah, you just take your index and your middle finger and go.
Yep. And I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking epic.
Yeah, no,
I'm deflecting all of these laser beams, and then you get the cutscene of them defeating Xemnas, which is just it's great. Cool. Riku passes his keyblade off to Sora, and then he like does a cross key slash on Xemnas, and then they come back and they shoot the keyblade beam through him, and it's just it's beautiful.
Shoot the beam.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's nonsense, but it's cool.
It is nonsense, but a
whole lot of nonsense.
Great. I might just go replay that.
It sounds like it. All right.
Oh.
That's it was the game again. The game started to already go off the rails by 2, but it was still a lot of fun. I was like, nobody's okay.
Not to mention your final form. You can use your final form where you get the 2 keyblades floating around, and
I love that. That final form. I love the way that you can level up the forms too.
Oh my god, it's so great.
How they kind of play to the strength of the form itself. But we're going to go on a tangent about Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
All right. So I'll do 2 bosses since you did 2 bosses. So my first one's going to seem kind of obvious. Anybody that's played Metal Gear is probably going to bring this up, at one time or another. Metal Gear Solid is, again, another franchise with fantastic boss battles. But to me, the standout will always be Psycho Mantis. Psycho Mantis is, of course, he's got psychic powers. And the thing that really blew my mind about this boss fight was just how meta it was. Because when you start fighting Psycho Mantis, like even before you start fighting him, when he's talking to you, he's like trying to prove, that his power is real. He's like, I can read your mind. And if you have any Konami games on your memory card, or if you're playing Twin Snakes and you have like Smash Brothers on your Nintendo memory card, he will tell it like, oh, you like to play Castlevania, don't you? Or you like to play Suikoden. He'll know and tell you what's on your memory card, which is amazing. And then he asked you to put your controller on the floor, and he says he's going to move it with your mind. And what's funny is you put your controller on the floor, and of course it vibrates really violently, and it starts to move.
You're right.
And then when the fight actually starts, this is the best part. When you go to shoot him, he always dodges out of the way, and you can't hit him. And when you're first playing, you're like, what the hell?
This game is busted.
Right? And at your most desperate hour, you get a codec call from Campbell, and he's like, switch the controller to port 2. And I'm like, the fuck? So you can pull your controller out and put it in port 2, and then he can't, quote unquote, read your moves. Genius. You know what I mean? The whole thing just played so well with the hardware, and it was such an interesting use of the features. I really wish Kojima was developing full-time games that specifically worked on all the kitschy bullshit that consoles try to sell you on. I wish he was making a game specifically for haptic controllers right now. Maybe he is.
Yeah, could be.
Motion control, stuff like that. Because I feel like he does such interesting things with, like the tech that most people kind of pass over, except for your Astro's Playrooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The second boss fight I'm going to choose is from a game that's pretty much all boss fights, and that's Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes.
Shadow of the Colossus is a fantastic game. It's a masterpiece. It is just perfect in every way. It's not super long, but it doesn't need to be. And the very last boss, just getting to this boss is like WW2. You're trying to run towards it, and it's shooting like these giant electric bombs at you that just blow up the landscape and shoot debris and dirt everywhere, and you have to find some way to get across without getting shot all to hell. And then climbing up this fucker is like trying to climb up the Empire State Building with arms, but it's constantly trying to shake you off. And you have to shoot parts of its body to get it to touch other parts while you're clinging onto its hand, and then jump to a shoulder and then the head and this and that and the other. It is just fantastic. The music is on point. The weather's going crazy. It's like your final climactic battle. It's super memorable. It's still difficult no matter how many times you do it. Not impossible, but things can always go wrong. If you mess up, it punishes you pretty well. And I find it to be just the perfect ending to a game about all boss fights. Special shout out to, I think, the bird Colossus.
Yeah, I really like that one.
Yeah, I like how the music shifts too when you actually catch on to the bird and when you're flying through the air. It's just epic. So definitely a great game people should check out. And that would be my favorite boss fights.
Oh, two good ones.